Hello everyone and welcome to EverlastCyber. In today's video, we'll be going through some questions and answers for the Certified SOC Analyst Certification exam. A SOC Analyst or a Security Operations Center Analyst plays a crucial role in an organization's cybersecurity strategy. The primary responsibility of a SOC Analyst is to monitor, detect, respond to, and mitigate security incidents and threats. So most of their key responsibilities revolves around incident detection and response, threat analysis, monitoring of security alerts, incident reporting, vulnerability management, as well as security tool management. So without wasting further time, let's dive right into the questions and answers for this certification exam. Question 1. Which of the following technique involves scanning the headers of IP packets leaving a network to make sure that the unauthorized or malicious traffic never leaves the internal network? A. Ingress filtering. B. Throttling. C. Rate limiting. D. Ingress filtering. Option A, egress filtering, involves scanning the headers of IP packets that are leaving an internal network in order to ensure that unauthorized or malicious traffic does not leave the network. Option B, throttling, refers to controlling the bandwidth or speed at which a specific type of traffic is allowed. However, it does not involve scanning packet headers in order to block unauthorized traffic. Rate limiting is used to limit the number of requests or connections in a given period. However, it is unrelated to scanning the packet headers or controlling outbound traffic based on security. Ingress filtering involves inspecting incoming traffic in order to block unauthorized or malicious traffic from entering the network, and this is the opposite of egress filtering. With respect to the scenario we have here, where the headers of IP packets that are leaving a network are being scanned, it is referred to option A, egress filtering. This technique helps to prevent data exfiltration and it limits the potential damage that is caused by compromised internal systems. Question 2. Your SOC team receives an alert regarding a suspicious pattern in web server logs. The logs show multiple requests for the admin log page, all coming from different IP addresses within a short time. What could be the best explanation for this activity? A. Normal user login attempts. B. Distributed denial of service attack. C. Brute force attack on the admin login page. D. Website content scraping. For option A, it is unlikely that normal users would attempt to log in from many IP addresses at a short period of time and in quick succession, so this is not the answer we're looking for. A DDoS attack involves overwhelming a server with traffic, however, it does not have anything to do with repeated login attempts. Multiple login attempts from different IP addresses is a typical case of a brute force attack using distributed bots. For option D, scraping involves downloading pages, but it does not involve attempting to log in to a page. So for this, we'll be going with option C. This is a brute force attack that is being done on the admin login page. Question 3. According to the forensics investigation process, what is the next step carried out right after collecting the evidence? A. Create a chain of custody documents. B. Send it to the nearby police station. C. Set a forensic lab. D. Call organizational disciplinary team. Option A here would be the correct answer because after collecting evidence, it is crucial to maintain a detailed record of how the evidence is handled, stored, and transferred. So the chain of custody documents will ensure that the integrity of the evidence is preserved and it is admissible in court or during an investigation. Option B, C, and D would not be the case because sending the evidence to a police station could be a part of the later step if law enforcement is involved. However, it is not the immediate step after collection. Setting up a forensic lab is done earlier in the preparation phase, but not immediately after collecting the evidence. While calling the organizational disciplinary team may happen later in the investigation process, depending on the internal policies. However, it is not directly linked to the immediate post-evidence collection stage. So, the answer here we're going with is create a chain of custody documents. That is the next step right after collecting the evidence. Question 4. You receive an alert that a privileged user account accessed a sensitive database at an unusual hour. Upon investigation, you find that the user was on vacation during that time. What action should you take first? A. Suspend the account immediately. B. Notify the user and ask if they accessed the system. C. Investigate if any files were altered or downloaded. D. Conduct a full audit of all system activities. The first thing in this case that should be done is to suspend the account in order to prevent further potential misuse. While notifying the user is important, immediate action is required to stop unauthorized access. For option C, investigation can be done later. However, the priority is to stop the misuse of the accounts. And then for option D, a full audit is important, but it is secondary to containing the threat. So in this case, the action that should be taken first is to suspend the accounts immediately before even trying to notify the user. Question 5. Which of the following formula represents the risk? A. Risk equals likelihood times severity times asset value. B. Risk equals likelihood times consequence times severity. C. Risk equals likelihood times impact times severity. D. Risk equals likelihood times impact times asset value. For this, we'll be going with option D. This formula will help to assess how likely a threat is to occur, which is the likelihood, the potential damage it can cause, which is the impact, and the value of the assets that may be affected, which is the asset value. So that's option D. Question 6. Bunny's system has been compromised by a gruesome malware. What is the primary step that is advisable to Bunny in order to contain the malware incident from spreading? A. Complaint to police in a formal way regarding the incident. B. Turn off the infected machine. C. Leave it to the network administrators to handle. D. Call the legal department in the organization and inform about the incident. Whenever a breach happens or a malware attack happens, the first thing to do is to isolate that machine. And if we go through the options that we have here, that will be option B, turning off the infected machine. So by isolating the machine, it will prevent the malware from further spreading to the other systems on the network. So this is the primary containment step in order to limit damage. All the other steps that were listed in options A, C, and D, those can come after. But the first thing to do is to isolate the infected machine so that the malware will not spread to other systems on the network. Question 7. Your organization is revising its log retention policy. As a SOC analyst, which log retention duration is typically recommended for security purposes? A. 1 week. B. 1 month. C. 3 months. D. 1 year or more. For this, the correct answer would be option D. 1 week is too short for forensic investigations. 1 month may not capture all the long-term attacks or trends. 3 months is often the minimum. However, for compliance purposes, a longer retention time is preferred. So that is why we're going with 1 year or more. This will ensure that logs are available for long-term investigations or audits. Question 8. The syslog message severity levels are labeled from 0 to level 7. What does level 0 indicate? A. Alert. B. Notification. C. Emergency. D. Debugging. A security level alert of the number 1 indicates that an action must be taken immediately. However, it is less severe than an emergency. Notification is a severity level of 5 and it is used for normal but significant conditions. So this is not the highest severity level. For option C, the emergency security level is a 0 and it indicates a critical condition where the system is unusable or severely impacted and it requires immediate attention. Debugging is a severity level of 7 and this is the least severe. It is used for diagnostic information and troubleshooting. So, with respect to the question, the level 0 indicates a severity level of emergency. It means that the system is in a critical condition as it has been severely impacted and it requires immediate attention. Question 9. Your endpoint detection system flags a potential malware infection on a corporate device. The malware is attempting to communicate with an external command and control server. What should be your first action? A. Isolate the infected device from the network. B. Run a full system scan on the infected device. C. Investigate the C2 server. D. Notify all employees of the potential threats. Like we've discussed in an earlier question, the first thing to do in a malware attack scenario is to isolate the infected machine so that it doesn't spread the malware to other devices on the network. So for this, the answer is option A. By isolating that device or shutting it down, it will prevent the malware from communicating with the C2 server, which is the command and control server where the attack is being sent from, and it will also prevent the malware from spreading to other systems on the network. Question 10. Jade, a SOC analyst, while monitoring logs, noticed large text null payloads. What does this indicate? A. Concurrent VPN connection attempts. B. DNS exfiltration attempts. C. Covering tracks attempts. D. DHCP starvation attempts. Concurrent VPN connection attempts would involve multiple login sessions. However, it does not involve large text or null payloads. Large text and null payloads in logs often indicate a DNS exfiltration attempt. This is when an attacker uses DNS queries, especially large ones, to covertly transfer data out of a network. So they often hide malicious payload in text records, exploiting the DNS protocol for data exfiltration. For option C, covering tracks generally involves deleting logs or altering audit trails. However, it does not generate large payloads, while DHCP starvation attempts involves consuming all available IP addresses in the DHCP pool. However, it doesn't have anything to do with large payloads in logs. So for this question, our answer is option B. Question 11. Jack reports receiving a suspicious email claiming to be from the company's IT department, asking him to reset his password. The email contains a link. What is the most likely reason for this email? A. Legitimate password reset requests. B. Social engineering attempts to harvest credentials. C. Misconfiguration in the company's email system. D. Routine IT communication. This scenario is a classic case of a phishing attempt because a phishing attempt will try to trick users into giving away their credentials. So in this scenario, Jack is targeted. An email was sent specifically to him requesting that he resets his password, and that email contains a link. So this is a classic social engineering attempt in order to harvest his credentials. So by the time he clicks on this link and puts in his details, his credentials will be stolen by the attackers and they can use it to launch an attack at any point in time. So this is a social engineering attempt in order to harvest Jack's credentials. Question 12. Which of the following Windows features is used to enable security auditing in Windows? A. BitLocker. B. Windows Firewall. C. Local Group Policy Editor. D. Windows Defender. BitLocker is used for disk encryption and securing data. However, it's not used for enabling security auditing. Windows Firewall is used to manage incoming and outgoing network traffic based on established security rules. However, it does not handle auditing. The Local Group Policy Editor is used to enable and configure security audit settings in Windows, and this allows administrators to track and log security events like file access, login attempts, as well as changes to the system settings. Windows Defender is just an antivirus tool that prevents malware from attacking the system, and it also protects the system against malware. However, it does not manage or enable security auditing. So for this, we'll be going with option C, the Local Group Policy Editor. Question 13. A high-level employee has been accessing sensitive data that is unrelated to their job role. What is the best course of action? A. Confront the employee directly. B. Monitor their activity closely without alerting them. C. Revoke their access to the sensitive data. D. Report the activity to law enforcement immediately. If we look at these options, confronting the employee directly would only alert them, and it can lead them to, destroy data or even have further issues. For option B, monitoring gathers evidence against them before deciding to take action. For option C, this would likely be the best answer, because immediately revoking their access to the sensitive data will ensure that the employee can no longer access information that they are not authorized to view. This will help to contain the potential security breach and prevent any further unauthorized access. Following this, a formal investigation can then be launched in order to determine whether the access was intentional, accidental, or due to a loophole in access control mechanisms. For option D, law enforcement involvement is premature without more evidence. So this is an extreme option unless there is evidence of a serious crime. It's typically the internal security, HR, and legal teams that will handle the investigation. And then when there is evidence of a serious crime, it can now be escalated to law enforcement if necessary. So for question 13, the answer is option C, revoke their access to the sensitive data. Question 14. Ray is a SOC analyst at EverlastCyber. One day, EverlastCyber is affected by a DDoS attack. For the containment of this incident, Ray and his team are trying to provide additional bandwidth to the network devices and increasing the capacity of the servers. What is Ray and his team doing? A. Blocking the attacks. B. Diverting traffic. C. Degrading the services. D. Absorbing the attack. In this scenario, Ray and his team are absorbing the attack by adding the bandwidth and increasing the server capacity. This will allow them to handle the extra traffic that is being generated by the DDoS attack without affecting normal operations. So this is a common mitigation strategy in order to withstand large volumes of data during such attacks. Question 15. Your SOC team notices unusual outbound traffic from multiple internal devices to a foreign IP address using an uncommon protocol. What could be the likely cause? A. Legitimate traffic from remote users. B. Misconfigured network settings. C. Data exfiltration by malware. D. Routine communication between internal sources. Option A is unlikely because the traffic is abnormal and it uses uncommon protocols. Misconfigurations might cause some issues, however, it would not cause an unusual outbound traffic pattern. Option C is likely the answer because unusual outbound traffic can indicate malware attempting to exfiltrate data from an organization. Routine communication would not be flagged as unusual, so for this, it's option C. Unusual outbound traffic from multiple internal devices to a foreign IP address is a classic case of data exfiltration by malware. Question 16. An attacker, by several trial and error, can now read the contents of a password file present in the restricted etc folder just by manipulating the URL in the browser as shown. What kind of attack is this? A. Directory Traversal attack. B. SQL Injection attack. C. Denial of service attack. D. Form tampering attack. For this scenario, this is a directory traversal attack because it occurs when an attacker manipulates the URL in order to access restricted files and directories on the server by using the .. sequences to navigate the file system. In this scenario we have, the attacker is able to access the /etc/password file, which contains sensitive system information. This is not an SQL injection attack because in an SQL injection attack, the attacker manipulates the SQL queries in order to gain unauthorized access to data, but it is not relevant to accessing file directories like we have in this scenario here. It is also not a DDoS attack. DDoS attack only aims to overwhelm the network with traffic or requests, while form tampering is an attack where the attacker manipulates web forms, but that is not the scenario we have here. So for this, it is the directory traversal attack, also known as path traversal. Question 17. According to the risk matrix table, what will be the risk level when the probability of an attack is very low and the impact of that attack is major? A. High. B. Extreme. C. Low. D. Medium. A high level would suggest a higher likelihood of attack, but this is not the case we have here. An extreme level implies both high probability and severe attack. A low level refers to a scenario where either the probability or the impact is also low, but in this case it would be a medium. In a medium level, the likelihood of occurrence is minimal and the potential consequences are significant if it were to happen. So we'll be going with option D. Question 18. A SOC analyst notices that a user's account has been locked out multiple times in a short period. Upon investigation, the analyst finds that the user has been accessing the network from different geographical locations within a few hours. What is the most likely cause of this activity? A. User is traveling and accessing the network. B. User's account has been compromised. C. User is attempting to bypass security protocols. D. User is using a VPN incorrectly. While it is possible that the user is traveling, accessing the network from different geographical locations within a few hours is highly suspicious, and this indicates a potential security issue. So it is likely that the user's account has been compromised and the attacker is using the accounts from various locations in order to hide their true identity and gain unauthorized access. For option C, there is no evidence in the scenario that the user is intentionally attempting to bypass security protocols. And for option D, incorrect use of a VPN might lead to connectivity issues. However, it does not result in multiple lockouts from different geographical locations in such a short time. So the likelihood here is option B, that the user's account has been compromised. Question 19. During a major security breach, your SOC activates the incident response plan. Which of the following is the first step in incident response? A. Eradication. B. Containment. C. Recovery. D. Identification. The very first step in any incident response plan is identification. You will need to identify the risk first in order to recover or eradicate or contain it. So the initial step is to identify the nature, scope, and impact of the security incident. In this case, the Security Operations Center needs to confirm whether an event qualifies as a security incident and then gather the relevant data to assess its severity. Without proper identification, it will be challenging to proceed with the appropriate response measures. So in this case, the first step is identification. Question 20. During a security audit, an analyst discovers multiple user accounts that have not been used for several months. What should be the analyst's first step in addressing this finding? A. Delete all inactive accounts. B. Investigate the reason for inactivity. C. Notify all users about the inactivity. D. Change the passwords of all inactive accounts. Deleting all inactive accounts without proper investigation could result in loss of necessary accounts or even important data. So the first thing that should be done is option B, to investigate the reason for the inactivity. This will help to determine if the accounts are legitimate and if they are dormant due to legitimate business reasons or if they are potential indicators of compromise. Notifying the users might be a good practice, but it does not address the underlying concern of why the accounts went inactive. And then changing passwords without understanding why the accounts are inactive may not be necessary, and this could lead to confusion. So in this case, the first thing to do is to investigate the reason for inactivity. Question 21. Which of the following attack can be eradicated by filtering improper XML syntax? A. Capture attacks. B. SQL injection attacks. C. Insufficient logging and monitoring attacks. D. Web services attacks. Capture attacks involves bypassing capture mechanisms to automate actions, and this is unrelated to the XML syntax. SQL injection attacks occurs when an attacker manipulates SQL queries to execute unauthorized commands in database. While filtering input is crucial to prevent SQL injections, it specifically targets SQL syntax rather than XML. Insufficient logging and monitoring attacks are not directly related to XML syntax, so it has nothing to do with the question. The correct answer here would be web services attacks. This particularly involves XML, and it can be mitigated by filtering improper XML syntax. These attacks may exploit vulnerabilities in how XML is processed or parsed, and by enforcing strict syntax and validation, these attacks can be effectively prevented. Question 22. An employee reports that their files are encrypted and a ransom note is displayed on their screen. What should be your next step? A. Pay the ransom to restore the files. B. Restore the files from backup. C. Disconnect the infected device from the network. D. Contact law enforcement. Whenever there is a ransom attack, ransom should never be paid because that will just turn you or the company to a cash cow. So if you pay ransom to this hacker, tomorrow another set of hackers can decide to, launch an attack on your company, and then you have to pay ransom again. So it is not advisable to pay ransom whenever there's a ransomware attack. The best thing to do is to disconnect that infected device from the network, which will isolate it and then prevent the malware from spreading to other systems on the network. So that's the first thing that should be done whenever there's a malware attack. Question 23. While performing log analysis, a SOC analyst identifies several login attempts to a critical server that originates from a single IP address and occurs at odd hours. What should be the analyst's initial response? A. Block the IP address immediately. B. Conduct a deeper investigation into the source of the IP address. C. Inform the management about the attempts. D. Monitor for further attempts without taking immediate action. For this, blocking the IP address is kind of premature because you don't understand the context and the legitimacy of the attempts. On the other hand, conducting a deeper investigation into the source of the IP address will allow the SOC analyst to determine if the attempts are malicious and to gather more information before taking further action. Informing management is important, however, it should follow an initial investigation in order to provide management with the accurate information. Monitoring without action could allow potential unauthorized access to continue unimpeded. So the first thing to do is option B, conduct a deeper investigation into the source of that IP address. Question 24. What is the process of monitoring and capturing all data packets passing through a given network using different tools? A. Network scanning. B. DNS footprinting. C. Network sniffing. D. Port scanning. Network scanning is the process of discovering active devices on a network, identifying their IP addresses and services, but it does not involve capturing packets. DNS footprinting involves gathering information about domain name system records for a domain, and this can help in mapping the network. However, it is unrelated to packet capturing. Network sniffing is the process of monitoring and capturing all data packets that travel through a network, while port scanning involves probing a network to determine which ports are open and what services are available. So with respect to the question that we are asked here, the answer is option C, network sniffing. Network sniffing uses different tools like Wireshark or TCP dump to intercept and log traffic, which will allow for analysis of the network communications. Question 25. Your SIEM generates an alert for a potential SQL injection attempt, but upon investigation, you discover it was a legitimate query from a trusted application. How can you handle this situation? A. Ignore the alerts and carry on. B. Whitelist the trusted application. C. Disable SQL injection detection rules. D. Investigate further for possible false negatives. For this, the best way to handle this situation will be option B, whitelisting the trusted application. So after confirming that the query is legitimate and it originates from a trusted application, whitelisting that specific application will prevent similar false positive alerts in the future while maintaining security. So it's important to ensure that the application is thoroughly validated and that it poses no security risk before applying the whitelists. This brings us to the end of the video for practice questions and answers for the SOC Analyst Certification exam. Don't forget to like, comment, and share, and also hit the notification button so that you'll be informed when our next informative video will drop. Thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.